Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for braving this rainstorm to attend our study session today. Regardless, today is June 25th, 2024. This is Prescott City Council study session. Roll call, please.
Mayor Good.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Cantelmi.
Here.
Councilwoman Freeworth.
Here.
Councilman Gambogi.
Yo.
Councilman Montoya.
Here.
Councilman Moore.
Here.
And Councilmember Rusing.
Here.
All are present.
City Clerk, would you like to read the agenda item today?
Sure. Today we have a presentation and discussion regarding proposed residential collection route changes.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Janet Ramsey, Public Works, and of course over here is Brady Higgs, Superintendent of Solid Waste. Neither rain nor snow nor whatever is going on out there right now should keep this Solid Waste Division from providing this presentation for your information. So today we are here to talk just about residential route changes. So by way of a little bit of background, solid waste is, in fact, of course, an enterprise fund. A lot of people don't necessarily know what that means. What that means to us is that we depend solely on the rates and fees paid by the users of solid waste, which means that we're always in the process of continuous improvement. Continuous process improvement is the name of the game. And in fact, you probably also remember that shortly after we developed the last set of rates and fees, we were hit with a really big expense that we weren't expecting. So we're always, again, working to absorb that. We haven't come back to you for a rate increase. That's not what we're doing today. But we do have some process improvements that we want to present to you. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Brady.
Alrighty. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Brady Higgs, Solid Waste Superintendent. Obviously, like Janet said, the purpose of the presentation today is to go over a residential route change that is going to affect both garbage and recycle collection for curbside pickup. If we could go to the next slide.
There you go.
So just a brief overview on kind of what our residential collection looks like. We provide weekly garbage and recycle collection to over 24,000 residents. We have a total of over 48,000 containers out in the field that we service weekly as long as it gets pulled to the curb. We currently have 5 garbage routes and 4 recycle routes that drive in different sections throughout town each week, every week, rain, snow, or shine. Just a quick annual tonnage number. Our residential garbage roughly picks up 4,000 tons a year of household garbage, and this year's tonnage was 4,200 tons of commingle recycle, which is your glass, cardboard, boxes, bottles, those sorts of items. Next slide. So our mission is to provide a variety of customer-centric solid waste services as stewards of the community and the environment while ensuring compliance of the regulatory authority. With that in mind, one of the reasons that we're here today is current route times, customer counts, are just causing some issues. As we'll kind of go through some of the slide, there's a little bit of a burden, and we're trying to alleviate that while still providing the same great service to our customers. So, current route times have extended driver hours that result in either missed, partially emptied containers. I know Councilman Gambogi came out for a ride along. It's a monotonous job. Stopping at every house in the neighborhood, stop, go. And when we have house counts reaching 1,600 or 1,500 in certain areas of town, we're not allowing enough time for these drivers to be able to provide the same great service to each resident as they do the first stop as the last stop. We have an inclination to rush, which leads to compromised safety, increased incident reports, as well as just driver fatigue and frustration. Next slide. One of the other topics is growth. Customers that we had in 2004 or 2014 was 17,500, and again today our current customer count is 24,176. During and that ultimately I know that that's only a 6,000 change, but ultimately that's 13,000 containers in the field. We provide 1 garbage, 1 recycle container to each new customer as a minimum service level. If they want to increase it because they have a larger family, that puts out 2 garbage cans or 3 garbage cans, in those areas. During that time frame between 2014 and today, we have added one residential garbage collection route. On average, we're trying to aim for about 750 cans picked up in a day, and that also allows them time to complete a proper pre and post trip inspection, take their breaks and lunches to just kind of get their mind right for the second half of their day, as well as just routine breakdowns, fuel in their truck for the next day's routes, and providing some maintenance, general upkeep, washing the truck off, cleaning out the inside, trying to keep these assets as nice as we can for as long as we can. One of the things that we've identified, and during this time frame, solid waste has also gone through 2 rate and fee studies. We've identified this as kind of one of our priorities. The first rate and fee study that we did, we weren't able to ultimately kind of get it in there. This last time, this was one of the things that we had in our mind that we wanted to accomplish over this 5-year period, is to try and rebalance and look at other opportunities, a way we can improve, help with retaining our drivers. So just a handful of things went into it over basically this 10-year period. Next slide. So employee retention, that first box there, over the last 5 years, Solid Waste Division has onboarded 47 new equipment operators. That's not a number that anybody's proud of. You know, we spend a lot of time training these folks. We want them to stay, trying to create a dynamic that allows enough time for them to get them the equipment. But like I said, we have some routes that when they come in on a certain day, there's no way that they can get finished in the allotted time that they have. And that's if everything goes right. No Javelinas knocked over a bunch of garbage cans, or the Ravens got into something, or they blew a hydraulic line. We have about 3 days that is already really, really tough with that. And with the turnover, I think it also affects our customer service. You know, I think there's a handful of us that probably have either met or introduced or know our garbage collector, whether it's Garbage Recycle, say hi. There's a handful of people that, you know, offer them a bottle of water or something like that. And it's, you know, it creates that dynamic where they know what's going on, or, hey, can you help me maybe get this can out? I sprained my ankle. Just having that time to be able to provide that type of service, as well as doing a good job. If we've had one route in particular that we've probably had 4 different employees on over the last 2 years, and the way areas are left, how the can's set down, if everything got shaken out of the can because they paused that extra second to let that last little bag come out, all those, it affects everything. Some of the other struggles that we have is just the mandatory overtime. When we come in, we're not done until all the cans are picked up. So, you know, that's one of the things that we've been dealing with. And then with the turnover, you know, we're limited on our PTO approvals. So we're limiting staff to maybe only, out of our 34 employees, that we're only allowing 2 people off on any given day, just because we got to get the trash pushed into the transfer station, all the routes picked up, and ultimately we, like all of us, deal with, you know, call outs, or somebody's sick or the kid's sick, and we have to deal with those and still provide that service. One of the other items on that struggles is the holidays. I feel like in years past, it's kind of been a hoorah that we kind of worked through. We work all these holidays, and it's one of the things that we're going to try and be addressing later in the slides, is the holiday hours.
Councilman Gambogi had a question.
Yeah, Brady, you know, the U.S. job market is unexplainable. But do you have any idea of the 47 people that you had to bring on board? That means they replaced 47 people?
Yes, or the same position multiple times. It could have been, you know, that one person got hired, they lasted, you know, 3 months or 6 months, something changed, and then we had to backfill that route. But we have...
When people leave, why do they leave?
Yeah, Councilman Gambogi, I would say a lot of it is whether it's the monotony of the job and the compensation for what we're asking them to do in a given day, and just the go nonstop. They can take their commercial driver's license and possibly go drive a dump truck or a water truck that might be a little bit easier or have some windshield time instead of just stop, go. And that last slide there is compensation, just competing with the private sector. I know we have a contractor out there, and they've kind of explained some of their struggles with us, that they're kind of fighting the same thing, that tough to find commercial driver's licenses, or people are just paying more. But the one little highlight underneath of us that we try and drive home with a lot of our employees is that Arizona State Retirement System. It's a great thing. I know it's tough to explain to new hired employees that they're kind of unsure or it's a big burden, but we just try and restate that, 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, you really get to see that difference. I know it's an adjustment now, but Janet has said it always, it's a permanent savings account. So just enjoy it. And I know we've all talked, if we weren't required to pay into it, there'd be all times in our life that we'd choose not to, and then we'd be behind than where we are today. We can go next slide. So some of the expected improvement with this residential route change, the enhanced customer service, having enough time to provide each resident with the same service level. So from the first person, if we get to that first can and we're a little rusty from a long night's sleep and we knock it over, that we're picking up the whole mess, tidying it up. I want that every can throughout the route to the very end of the route to the last can. The cleaning up the messes. I'm sure you guys in certain parts of the town have just seen the javelina. They're pretty good at their jobs. So that makes it tough. But ensuring that containers are left standing. I think that it's nice. We have a handful of drivers, and we try and reiterate to them that it's almost nice when people give us a call and they're like, well, my can's still out there. You guys haven't come by and picked it up. And it's like, well, we checked the GPS on the truck, and no, it looks like we were there at 9:15 this morning. Okay, well, let me go out and check. And oh man, yeah, it's empty. You guys did a good job. I didn't even notice that you guys drove down the road. So it's just trying to leave it how we found it. Those cans are nice and tidy to the curb in the morning, and I'd like to have the time to be able to do that. As well as just answering questions en route and informing residents. Sometimes we have like an oops tag for our recycle container, that something went in there that wasn't recyclable. Just being able to spend that time if a resident comes out or knock on the door and say, hey, just so you know, next time your green waste can't go in the recycle can. Just trying to have that time to be able to inform them. Improve the employee retention. Just allow enough time in the day to be able to complete routes in the allotted time. I think it's huge. I know we have like I said earlier, a handful of days that even when we come in, we're already behind the ball. And ultimately, changing the culture from just go, rush, get it done, to being able to take pride in what we do and doing a good job and having the right tools and the right time to be able to get it done. That last one, which is manage and plan for future growth. Allow for infill in existing routes, so vacant lots that could be developed on later, as well as setting trigger points for when new routes need to be added, or we need to add additional personnel or equipment. We can go to next slide. So the ultimate question, kind of affected areas. So in the top right corner, we have a total count of 7,302 customers that are going to be affected by the change. So some of the affected areas: Yavapai Hills, the Ranch, Cliff Rose, Cloudstone, Astoria, Prescott Lakes, Smoke Tree Lane, Willow Lake Corridor from Highway 89 over to Willow Creek Road, Saddlewood, Westwood, Gale Gardner, Kingswood, Forest Trail, Sierra Peaks, and Sheldon Street and 6th Street.
Councilman Montoya, you had a question.
I did. Thank you, Mayor. First, Brady, I want to give you guys some kudos, because it sounds like you've been dealing with some turnover, and I would say, from a user perspective, that hasn't been noticed from where I sit. And I have, trash cans you guys pick up at my house and then at my building too. So from my perspective, you guys do really, really excellent work. And it's not surprising to me that, you hold high standards, because I see that every week when the trash gets picked up. And I'll say, the folks when you call, there've been times when it's been my bad, where I cut it too close getting my cans to the curb, and I call and I say, hey, can someone come by? And usually the people they're like, yeah, I think we can route someone to you. Or they'll say, we might have to get you tomorrow, but so first off, I just want to say that. And I think you'll touch on my question in the next little bit, but I kind of wanted to throw this out there. I think, and I don't want to put this on you guys per se, but I think sometimes as a city, we can have a little bit of myopia, thinking that we're doing a lot of outreach and a lot of really, really intensive focus on getting message out. But this is a lot of folks that are going to be impacted. And I just want to make sure that we're thinking as broadly as possible about making sure that we really go the extra mile to notify people, because I think back, and I know this was something that was a bit of a safety issue, but when we had that big snowstorm and we had to suspend trash service for a couple of days, that was probably one of the issues where I got
The most feedback.
the most input from people about it. And I know that I completely support the decision-making process you made, and I tried to explain as reasonably possible to a lot of people on Facebook, listen, like at the end of the day, we're going to err on the side of safety for our drivers because that's the right thing to do. And sorry, it's inconvenient that your trash is a little fuller than you like. Nobody likes that. But you guys also made that right by allowing people to go to the transfer station. So I really just want to, more than anything, I want to say, let's make sure we get the communication as, if we go on the side of feeling like, man, maybe we're overdoing it, that's probably a good feeling. Yeah. And then the other thing I just want to really emphasize to you guys is you run a really, really solid department, and the work. And yeah, solid waste. I'm just personally, I'm always wowed by the experience that I receive personally, and the experience I hear about from residents too. So I know that it's challenging, and the job market is challenging, and there's a lot of challenges there, and it takes a lot of effort to keep everything running as smoothly. But man, you guys are doing top-notch work. So I just want to make sure you know that, and please relay that to your frontline people as well.
Will do. I appreciate that, Councilman.
Thank you for that. And you're right. Brady and team really do a great job. And so just before you step on to the next section, Brady, I did want to mention, you're right. From the time that we're all about knee high, we start looking for the garbage truck to come around the corner, right? And some of us never grow out of that. So for those of us who don't, it's a really big deal if you change the dates. So we haven't taken this lightly, and in fact, that's why this is a presentation today, because a lot of thought has gone into this. There's been a lot of, Brady's been noodling over this for a couple of years probably. And so we're really putting this into motion now. It's the right time, we believe. But we appreciate the audience today to allow us to help get that kicked off.
Yeah, and Councilman Montoya, that next slide, I'll kind of go a little bit more in depth. I'll just finish up this one real quick, though. As far as the areas that I've kind of listed out, everybody asks, might ask why. Why did we pick these? I mean, we're looking at a handful of different items, which include balancing the routes and customer counts, container counts, the topography, the mileage, size of the parcels. All that plays into effect on how many containers somebody can pick up, whether it's quarter acre lots or 2 acre lots. So a lot of that went into that, as well as allowing the infill on some of the vacant parcels that we have inside the city today, that ultimately, if they decide to build a house next month or next year, that we're going to be able to provide service, and we don't have to come back to you guys in 2 years to say, hey, time out, we weren't expecting this. So we've been taking a peek at a lot of different areas and a lot of different scenarios to come up with the intended areas, as well as making the routes flow. Obviously, we're not trying to turn against traffic in these large trucks and across intersections. If we can make right-hand turns and flow with traffic, that's typically what we try and do, like the Postal Service. But one thing that I do want to touch on in this was the intent of the proposed routes is that what I'm considering kind of the core of the city with these route changes, that I don't expect us to need to change days unless there is some sort of an annexation south of town, east or west of town for any sort of area. But at the same token, on the north side of town, which I'm going to say north of Pioneer Parkway, kind of 89A, that area of town could expect to see multiple day changes anywhere between the next 2 and 15 years, just as new subdivisions or new phases come into play. So we could have another conversation, but our intent is for that to be we already know what's circulating or speculated to possibly be built, and that's been taken into account in these numbers for us to be able to handle. Next slide. So this is the outreach plan. So we have already had some preliminary conversations with Beta PR, which we've used in Public Works for numerous road projects. They've done fantastic work in the past and would expect the same here. Just an estimate for a scope for us to be able to do this, and what we wanted to identify was 2 direct mail notification flyers to not only the resident, but the property owner as well. So if for some reason there was a short-term rental or something along those lines, that they leave out a pamphlet that says trash needs to go out on Thursdays, that the first person we send it to doesn't just throw it away. We're going to try and send it out to the physical address and the property owner. So with those, we would do an early flyer, and then like a 3-week reminder, hey, this is happening, or a 2-week reminder, letting them know that this is happening. We would be doing some newspaper advertisement, obviously as many press releases and social media posts as we can, just to get out the memo. The project-specific website I took a little kind of snippet of it, working with some of our internal IT folks and GIS folks, that creating a site-specific website that's super easy to use. Anybody can get onto it, whether it's a QR, on the phone, at your computer at home, but it'll go straight to a map. The only thing it asks you to do is put in your address. And for this instance right here, this person or this resident would type in their address. It shows what their current day is, what their future day is, and what the change is. So they are currently a Tuesday. Their future day is going to be a Wednesday. They're moving from Tuesday to Wednesday. So trying to have it to where there's not a whole bunch of other stuff that they got to click through. It's super easy. If somebody happens to look at a day that is not changing, it'll say current day, future day, same day, no change. Down on the bottom where it says day change, it'll say no change. And if somebody in unincorporated Yavapai County just maybe got this word of mouth from a friend that, hey, trash day is changing, if you typed in an address, let's say out Williamson Valley a ways, it'll say that you're outside the city limits, and call your trash provider if something along those lines. So we're trying to clean it up. It will have highlighted sections where the boundaries are. So when you click in your address, it'll actually bring you to that portion of the map just to verify, hey, I live over here off of Gail Gardner or Rosser. It'll pull that up, as well as a banner design, which we're trying to figure out if we can get that on our website. So that way, whenever they come on, it's something that's highlighted. So it's super easy to get to. It's kind of right in their face. Some of the other changes that are going to be going with this. So in one of the transitions, so we're looking at is a Monday through Thursday residential collection. Now everybody sees, well, that's just, a 3-day weekend. So there's more thought that went into that, as well as looking at other agencies that provide similar services. One of the things that we were looking at, which Councilman Montoya already brought up, was the weather days. This automatically allows us a flex day to be able to push and be able to get some stuff collected in the next day. If the street maintenance department can get the roads cleaned up, that we can just push the collection the next day to be able to get that stuff picked up. Another thing that we're running up against tight on time, as well as just truck availability, is another day for our fleet services department to be able to provide preventative maintenance to these vehicles. I know I've came before a lot of you guys and asked for some new trucks, and I know it's kind of a shock and awe every time the purchase price, whether a garbage truck or a fire truck or a Vector truck, comes up. But we need to be able to provide these 200-hour preventative maintenance services on time to be able to have these vehicles at least last the industry standard of 7 to 10 years. So that's one of the other big points. And then ultimately, the second section down there is going to be the Solid Waste Division observing 9 of the 10 major holidays. So currently, residential collection observes 3 holidays: Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day. Every other holiday, we work the holiday, and people are missing out on opportunities with their family. A little bit of a longer weekend, just kind of that recharge to kind of help that employee retention. But in some of the other holidays, for instance, some of the floating holidays, we have a handful of Monday major holidays. That collection will just get pushed to the day after trash day. So it'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Everybody will be a day in the rear. We'll pick everything up. One of our current struggles that we have, the way routes are currently laid out, is our Thanksgiving collection, because we can't pick up 2 days at once on certain areas. We're asking Thursday customers to get out their container on Wednesday, and everybody always thinks, well, trash will just be the day after if there's a holiday. And then we get, anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 calls the next day on, hey, you missed me, or they didn't get the memo, or trying to help with that outreach. But on the floating holidays, so for instance, Thanksgiving, so out of those 9 holidays, the one holiday that we're not going to get out of just because of the business that we're in is going to be the Friday after Thanksgiving. That was one thing that I talked with a lot of my staff on, that, if you want that day off and your name doesn't make it on the holiday list, there's just nothing we can do. For lack of a better word, we got to change career paths if you want that day off, or you got to be the most tenured person to be able to get it, which is unfortunate. But I think observing 6 other of the major holidays is a huge step in the right direction. For this year, Wednesday is Christmas and New Year's this day, so we'll do Monday collection on Monday, Tuesday on Tuesday, Wednesday on Thursday, and Thursday on Friday. So it'll just be a day of getting pushed.
Councilwoman Furworth.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of questions on some points. You had said now we're transitioning to Monday through Thursday. I'm assuming now we're operating Monday through Friday?
Correct.
Okay, so that's the change. And the streets that you outlined on the previous slide, I'm assuming all the neighborhoods that are off of those streets are all included.
Correct, yes. I instead of just subdivision names, I tried to just put overall affected areas. So in those maps, the Siri Peaks, Forest Trails, obviously it's going to be the side roads off of those, Kingswood, the Willow Lake area is going to be trail walk, it's going to be everything.
Everything. So that's what I just wanted to confirm. And is there any pattern in the change that people can expect? Are some people going to change 3 days? Or some people going to change 1 day? Is there anything, or it's just going to be based on what works out best for the routes and the drivers?
Yeah, Councilwoman Furworth, as far as the multiple day changes, could you elaborate on if they're going to change, did you say multiple days?
I think she's looking for a pattern. And the
Is there a
answer to-
pattern? That was
Yeah.
my question about the changes, or could it's going to be some people are going to get pushed 1 day, some people are going to get pushed 2 days, some people are going to get pushed 4 days. I don't,
Yes. So Councilwoman Furworth, I wouldn't necessarily say that there is an exact pattern. There is customers in that 7,302 number that will be transitioning from Friday collection to Monday. So either side of the weekend could be beneficial in some aspects to get it earlier at the week or end of the week, or if they leave on Fridays to go down to the valley and it's tough to get out, that can. But there is days that are just Tuesday to Wednesday, Wednesday to Thursday, but not necessarily a pattern around it. All right, and so
Councilmember Roosing.
yes.
Thank you. I just want to compliment Brady and his crew for doing such a wonderful job. I've been a customer since 1986, both residential and commercial. This seems like a very cost-effective solution, but I'm worried that it might just be a temporary solution. And do you think that maybe we should look to the future and maybe start a conversation about maybe thinking about privatizing some of the routes, offloading them to something like waste management Waste Management, our routes in the furthest north part, like Depot Ranch, Granite Dells Estates, AED, because according to the statistics, if in the next 10 years, if we grow 25%, what are we going to do? And I see that our neighbor to the east, Prescott Valley, they don't have a trash service at all. They privatize it all. So do you think there might be some benefit as to maybe having a hybrid program where some people are served by, like, say, Waste Management?
Yeah. Councilmember Roosing, obviously that's, something that if this council wanted to look at, we could do that. You talked about the neighbors to the east of us. So they ultimately don't have, they're private, but they don't have any contractual agreements. So it kind of makes it tough. I know we've talked about that before, of multiple trucks running down the same road 5 different times. As of right now, we are identifying these sorts of needs in our rate and fee studies. So even in this most recent one that we took before you guys, we have a plan for FY27 for 2 drivers and 2 trucks if the need is there and the house count is there. And with that being said, we have our rates that are established and I feel like are fairly competitive, if not one of the best in the Quad Cities, for the services that we provide. 1 garbage can, 1 recycle can, 4 additional services throughout that. So I feel like if we were to consider privatization, the bigger question is do those customers get the same 4 services that are built into the rate, or what rate is it going to look like? Is it good for a couple years and then after the 4th year, then it's skyrocketed? And ultimately, I feel like we have control of the service that we want to provide and how we want to provide it. And I feel like once you get into some of those contractual services, you kind of lose that sense of touch or being able to make something happen. Or if we have somebody picking up a certain neighborhood on the north side of town and we ask them to go back or do something and it doesn't happen, are we ultimately going back? So I think it's a conversation if it wants to be had by this council, but I think that the service that we're providing, all the additional services and the current rate that we are, and we've already identified things down the road for kind of trigger points, is I think that we're squared away, for the next 5 or 10 years. And ultimately here in 3, we'll have, another review of our rates and fees to see if we have a good enough rate to be able to buy some capital to be able to provide those services.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Well, I just did some back of the napkin calculations. If you're providing services 5 days a week times 52 weeks, it's 312 service days a year, less 3 holidays. So you're at 309. Now you're going to eliminate all the Fridays, so that's 52 Fridays, plus you're adding 6 additional holidays. So that's 58 service days now that have been eliminated from the calendar. So we're talking about almost a 20% reduction in service days. At the same time, we're trying to convince the public at large that the increase in utility rates is justified. So I think the timing here is pretty darn poor, because the public is, I've heard from a lot of people about raising the utility rates, and at the same time, we're going to cut 20% of the service days off the solid waste division. Now, I understand some of the concerns you have with retention and being able to have a reasonable work day for your staff. But we've got to be able to either make incremental changes rather than these are pretty dramatic in my opinion. Considering all the variables that you have to deal with throughout the city, old neighborhoods, different ease of taking your trucks down some of these very narrow roads in some of the older neighborhoods, do you have any type of a software program that you use to be able to calculate how to more efficiently service these areas, not only for where we are now, but we're still growing pretty significantly and pushing our borders farther and farther out. I mean, even Hidden Hills now, they're starting to build up there. I think they've got 5 or 6 homes in construction. And of course, that's going to be a route that's not actually adjacent or connected with the current route. So there's another challenge that's developing as well. So that's a series of questions. Anybody want to take a shot at answering them?
Well, I'm going to ask Brady to hit most of them, but Brady, I would like you to address the fact that the Wednesdays currently as well. I think that factors into the calculations that the mayor's done.
Yeah, Mayor. As far as the software, so about I'd say it's probably been about 18 months ago, we began having in-cab telematic devices. So we have a software program called Rubicon Global that pinpoints all the service areas that are in that area, what they have provided there, as well as the most efficient route, taking into a lot of account turns, traffic, stuff like that, to be the most efficient that we can. So to answer that question, we do have software that's doing that. It also flags us if there's an issue there, the customer's overloaded, the can didn't get put out, there was a car blocking it or a repeat offender. So we do have those sorts of systems in there.
How long have you been using that?
For 18 months. We did a 6-month demo before we went with the software as a pilot program to see if it was going to work for us. As far as the second question is, I know it kind of was related to some of the areas in specific, like Hidden Hills. So on our existing Tuesday route, you know, we go out Williamson Valley, we hit Southview, Longview, and then we go into Old Pinion Oaks and New Pinion Oaks is what we consider it. I know it's all Pinion Oaks, but Hidden Hills is something that we have already planned for the platted lots that are in there, that we will be able to take in the infill from those areas, as well as other certain developments up Bradshaw Drive, the future plats in the back section of Yavapai Hills on Sunrise Boulevard, as well as some of the other platted areas, Storm Ranch, some of the stuff that's going on in Prescott Lakes as far as Astoria Phase 2. So we've taken into account all these numbers, and obviously they're all not going to turn on service on day one. And also we look at some of the set out rates in some of these areas. I don't know if that specifically answered your question, the first part of
I
it.
think the biggest one is having 20% less service days on your calendar.
Wednesdays, Brady.
What's that?
Wednesdays.
The third, it would be
Right. So currently we don't have residential
You don't
routes.
do pickups on Wednesdays?
We don't have, there's a few. I don't want to speak out of turn, right, Brady? But
Yeah.
there's only a few. So when you're talking about,
You're swapping Wednesdays
we're swapping
with
Wednesdays for
Fridays.
Fridays, really, is what we're accomplishing here. And to be clear, in the overall, this is all about efficiency to really get us that much further with the current rates and fees that we have. So it's not about raising the rates or asking for more people. It's really just to explain that there was a lot of thought that went into this process, which includes a lot of efficiencies, including routing, changing those dates that works better. There's a lot of reasons for that. Giving that Friday for our fleet maintenance group to service the trucks and keep them in service more often, longer, in better
I
running
get the
condition.
fact that these are enterprise funds.
Correct.
But you have to realize the average customer, when they see their utility rates going up on their monthly bill, and then they see changes in delivery schedules or different times, they connect the two. And that's what we'll hear from the customers when it happens. So I think just swapping Friday for Wednesday is a much better understanding, because that would be the biggest number. So consequently, you're really dealing with 9 holidays rather than just 3.
That's a good point, Mayor. And we'll absolutely take that into consideration and try to make that point through the publication and the public outreach that we plan to do as we go forward.
So the next slide is going to be our roadmap.
Councilman Moore?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I want to be sensitive to the mayor's comments, but I really do believe that while the public may correlate a change in service day with a change in rates for utilities, I don't think that changing the delivery day does not change the service level. We're not changing the service level at all.
No, sir.
They're still going to get trash pickup one day a week. It's just going to be a different day of the week. Nothing in reality is going to change other than what day it's getting picked up. So I don't see this as being a long-term problem. It might be initial, maybe need to overcome an initial perception issue, but we're not changing service levels at all. We're just changing the day of the service.
Correct.
Yeah, and that, like I said, that is a really good point. We'll be very careful to make that clear as we go forward.
Councilmember Rusing.
Thank you. I too would like to stress that this isn't a cut in services, that you're just rearranging the days that you're getting your trash picked up. I know that there's some communities out there that are so stretched so thin that they're picking up trash every other week. So we're lucky that we're not at that point. And I also want to commend you for bringing this to our attention, because this is related to growth. And it seems like pretty much every council meeting we're dealing with something that's related to growth and trying to problem solve. So I really appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and I think the timing is perfect, because the sooner we do it, the better off we are. Thank you.
Thank you. So to our roadmap, proposed change, here we are, June 2024. As far as that scope that I went over with Beta PR, we had planned to begin outreach in the first week in August, and we'll be doing the mailers, the social media posts, the newspaper articles, all those items, as well as the second direct mailer, which would be at the last week of September, the beginning of October. And this has the implementation date of the week of October 14th is kind of what we are aiming for as far as making the transition. One thing that I do want to talk on this slide is on the implementation. We are completely aware of the change that's happening. We're not numb to it. We understand. We understand that we're human. We're creatures of habit. We've been maybe taking out that garbage can for the last 10 years or the last 15 or 25 years, whatever the case may be, on Wednesdays, and now we're asking it to be out on Mondays. There is going to be a generous amount of, we understand, we'll get you picked up tomorrow, just like we've heard some comments here today. It's not going to be, hey, it's going to be notification. Hey, just letting you know, it looked like you were missed. I think you got those cans out a day late. We got the new route. We'll be happy to get you picked up. So we understand that there's probably ultimately going to be probably a 2-month transition period where there might be some people that are frustrated, but we're going to right the wrong. We're going to go back and get it serviced. Every can we service that was missed for the wrong day, we plan on leaving an additional flyer when we go out for that missed pickup to let them know, hey, just a reminder, your new day is this. So like Janet said, there's been a lot of thought that's gone into this. We're not just winging it, for lack of a better word. But with that, we can go to the next slide, which I think is
We are done.
just questions, if there's anything else that you guys want to touch on.
Councilman Gambogi.
Grady, I really appreciate how you've integrated route changes to save money. It was a great presentation. Let me ask you something. What's a trash truck cost?
Yeah, Councilman Gambogi, the last one that I believe we took before council was $487,000.
So in my back of the napkin calculations, the 6,700 new homes that you mentioned in the paper with 2 trash cans being picked up 52 times a year is 697,000 pickups, and 1 truck working over the year picking up 800 containers is 208,000, which means we would need 3.35 trucks. You've already bought 1, so we need 2. So the way I see it, you're saving us $1 million. Thank you very much. Now, for those of the public that are not here, Brady mentioned that I traveled along one day in a trash truck with Cameron. Everybody knows that you pick up trash, but I didn't know until I traveled with you that when if we go by Handicap House, that Cameron would go up to the garage and pick up the trash, bring it down. And if the infamous javelina attacked the trash can, Brady or Cameron and I would go out and clean up the trash, put it in the trash can, and dump it. Now, on the subject of javelinas, you're familiar with the movie The Lion King, right?
Yeah.
And the Circle of Life. We have a lot of wildlife that I think serve purpose. For example, coyotes eat our pets, deer eat our trees. I don't know what benefit there is to a javelina, but I do know that if you let Arizona Game and Fish continue to kill mountain lions, the javelina will multiply. So save the mountain lions.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
I second
Boji.
that.
Councilmember Rusing.
Thank you. I'd also like to comment that, our trash pickup has been Wednesdays for almost 40 years, and we'll still forget. And the kind trash truck driver pointed out that I could put the trash on the other side of the road and get the second swoop as they come by. So that's always a good suggestion. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. This is probably a question for Joe Young. So we were just talking about the impacts of growth not too long ago, but as it relates to you, even though you are an enterprise fund, do we have an opportunity with the next 20,000 homes to, knowing right now what we just discussed how much a garbage truck and an employee cost, do we have an opportunity for an impact fee on that when we have 20,000 homes? I don't know if it's legal or not. Just curious.
That's a question I could research. I don't believe it is allowable. We kind of have enumerated things that we can charge impact fees for, and I don't think so, but I can find the answer to that.
Thank you.
Councilman Montoya.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. I just, to the extent that the purpose of this study session is to get guidance from council, I just want to echo the sentiment of Councilman Moore and Councilmember Rusing that I think, I think more or less people will understand that this is a change in service, not a reduction in service. And so being sensitive to that, it makes sense, but, and communicating in a way that's effective. But I think by and large, this seems like a pretty reasonable plan to go forward. And certainly if it helps with employee retention, that makes a lot of sense to me. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Councilwoman Furworth.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Brady. I've learned a lot today. I didn't know because the trash goes out, it magically disappears, and I didn't have to know all these things. So I appreciate what you guys do. You've got 7 people up here that are going to be on the road a lot between now and October 14th for other purposes. So if we can get your schedules when you are putting them out in August, we can, when we're out and about at different neighborhoods or different groups, we can also handle this topic for you. So let us help you as well. One more push. Thanks.
Appreciate that.
Very good. Do we have any public comment?
We do not, Mayor.
All right. I think we're finished here. Thank you very much, Brady. Thank you, Janet, for your presentation. And I think the bottom line is, as long as our community is being serviced to the level of their expectation, we'll continue to have a great solid waste department and something we can all be proud of. Thank you, and this meeting is adjourned.